Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Hope we had a great weekend. As you can see, I am dressed in my all black outfit again, just in case, I happen to run into a funeral today or a bank I want to rob or I want to enter the Matrix or anything like that. Then I'm ready to go. I've got the costume on. Now, I want to talk about this Kevin Williamson situation. Maybe if you're not on Twitter, you maybe haven't even heard about it. Kevin Williamson was hired by, he's a conservative writer, right-wing writer at least, and he was hired by The Atlantic, which, as you probably know, is traditionally a leftist publication. Hired by them a few weeks ago, has now been fired. Before I believe he even wrote anything for The Atlantic, he's already been fired because of a coordinated and relentless smear campaign against him by the left. And The Atlantic caved to that pressure after only a couple of weeks. This, in spite of the fact that Kevin Williamson is one of the most talented writers in America, and he really is one of the most talented. I'm not just saying that. He's one of the most talented writers in America and one of the most interesting writers because he doesn't pander, and that's a very rare quality among commentators and pundits and columnists and writers on both sides of the spectrum. Most of what you get on both sides of the spectrum with these paid opinion givers, most of them, all they do is just pander. They have their audience and they've got their base of support, and they just tell those people, they just echo, they figure out whatever those people are already thinking, and they echo those thoughts back to them in even simpler and less nuanced terms than they're already thinking it. So they're just a wall to bounce your own opinions off of. And that makes them bland and boring and just painfully dull. Williamson doesn't do that. That's what makes him interesting. But he's been fired. The thing that got Williamson into trouble, well, really the thing that got him into trouble is just that he's not on the left, that he's considered part of the right wing, and so that's why they hate him. And they would have wanted to destroy him and get him kicked out of the mainstream anyway. He was a part of he was writing for the National Review before then. If you're a conservative person and you try to leave the conservative sphere and go to something considered more mainstream, then the left is going to react against that and try to get, they're going to find a reason to kick you back to the conservative camp. The reason that they found for Kevin Williamson is that he has stated on a few occasions that he believes that women who have had abortions should be hanged. Now, I don't think he meant this literally. Okay, it's kind of clear to me that he's not actually stating his a plan or something. He's not saying that women right now today who have had abortion should be hanged. What he's talking about is, well, if abortion is illegal and it's legally murder, well, that means what it means. That's what he actually said. Now, most pro-lifers, myself included, would oppose the idea of executing women who get abortions. However, it's not an irrational or delusional point of view, because in a world where abortion is illegal, it would and should be treated as murder, which is the point he's trying to make. So if you are someone who supports capital punishment, and a lot of pro-lifers don't, which is the first reason why they wouldn't execute anybody involved with abortions, is because they don't believe in executing anyone at all. But if you believe in capital punishment and you believe in capital punishment for people who commit murder, particularly murder of children, well, then there's kind of an obvious connection here. Personally, I wouldn't support that because I believe, capital murder charges should be reserved for the abortionists who not only carry out these killings, but also take advantage of and exploit women and young girls who are often ignorant. They're scared, and the abortion industry takes advantage of them. That doesn't alleviate their moral guilt entirely, and there's no doubt that many of them go into the procedure with very clear eyes. They know what they're doing, and calloused hearts. And there are women who get multiple abortions, and they just don't care at all about the lives of these children. And so there's just that callousness there. But I also think that a lot of people don't understand the level of exploitation that goes on. And this is a really important part of the pro-life message. This is something we need to communicate. People don't understand the level of exploitation and just the scare tactics that these abortion clinics use, and the ways in which they ensure that these women remain in the dark and remain ignorant. They don't want them to have any information. That's why they're always opposed to, oh no, we can't let them see a sonogram. We can't give them any information. If you try to pass any law at all imposing any standards on these clinics or saying, look, you need to equip these women with at least some information about what you're doing to them, any amount of that whatsoever, the clinics react against. Even though they consider themselves a medical, right? They're a medical clinic. Well, any other medical clinic you go to, there are all kinds of laws and regulations. And if they're going to perform any procedure on you whatsoever, they have to give you, there are all kinds of laws requiring the clinic or the medical establishment to provide information. There are not nearly as many such laws for abortion clinics. Why is that? Because the abortion clinics want these women to be ignorant. They want them in the dark. Because if you're in the dark and you're ignorant and you're already in the situation where you're pregnant and you don't know what to do, then that's going to breed fear. And then the abortion clinic, they take that fear and they use it and they profit off of it and they turn it into death. And that's how they convince these women oftentimes to kill their babies and to give up this precious gift, this gift of motherhood, and to give it up without fully realizing what they're doing. And that's why if we're going to, give first-degree capital murder charges to anybody, it should be the abortionists and the officials in these abortion clinics. But however you feel on that subject, and whether you think that Williamson's position is correct or horrifying or somewhere in between, I think there are two things are immediately clear here that I want to cover. First of all, it's very chilling, and this is the thing that most people are focusing on. It's very chilling that a writer can be fired for his political beliefs, especially when he was hired to communicate those beliefs after a coordinated assault on his character. And especially when, by the way, it's not like he was hired for The Atlantic and then the first thing he did was write an article about executing women. This is something that he mentioned in a tweet and in a podcast well before he was ever hired by The Atlantic. And as far as I know, he's never proposed it in any kind of writing that anyone has paid him to write. So really, he's getting fired for his opinions and his personal beliefs after this assault that was waged against him, which was completely politically motivated. And that's a pretty chilling thing. But here's the bigger point. Every pro-abortion columnist and pundit in the country harbors views that are infinitely more offensive and disgusting and outrageous and shocking than Williamson's. Now, he may hypothetically be suggesting capital punishment for people who kill their babies, but pro-abortion people, and there are obviously millions of them out there, and there are hundreds of them in the media. Pro-abortion people support the actual real-life execution of human children. Let me ask you, which position